Welcome to our Saturday Simulcast. I'm joined by Brian Neubert and Tom Dienhart, and I think we'll be hitting talking about Purdue's first practice on Friday night, and the fact that we actually all sat right next to each other in Ross-Age Stadium. I think that's monumental in its own right. We'll hit on that as well, but. Want to thank our sponsor, the Purdue Union Club Hotel, back with us for another year and another big year because there'll be fans in Ross-Age Stadium and I'm sure a full hotel. And we're going to be doing a couple of appearances there throughout the course of the year as well. So we look forward to working with Vicky Wicks and the group and getting some exciting things going on campus. All right, I'm going to start with you, Tom. Again, I mean, not to get emotional, but it was just great to see physically. Brian, I've seen Brian at a distance. Literally, I've been in the same room. You and I have been in the same room for some football games last year, but it was good just to kind of sit out there on a nice evening. We had a little bit of rain and for about 30 seconds, but just kind of a pleasant evening watching this football team run up and down the field. And I know we all have impressions of what we saw, but Tom, I'll give you the first shot.
Are you getting teary-eyed, Alan?
Yeah, I don't know. It was fun though. I thought it was good.
I just want to know how many new variants we created by all being together.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not as bad as Lollapalooza last weekend in Chicago, but we had a little Ross-Age Palooza, right?
Yeah, we did.
About I think we guesstimated, guys, between 500 and 1,000 people in Ross-Age to watch the first practice of training camp 2021. Of course, they were showing a movie afterwards.
Remember the Titans.
I was trying to say Revenge of the Titans. I was thinking Revenge of the Nerds. That's what I wanted to watch, was Revenge of the Nerds. A little tri-lam action, but
yeah,
I digress. Yeah, it was just great. I love football. I really love football practice, and I really love you guys a lot, man. You know that.
There you go.
It was just one.
We're gonna have all these people turning this thing off here before long. But go ahead.
It was a lot of fun. Of course, the questions and the analysis has been endless for months, it seems like. Now we're finally have taken the wraps off. We're going to get a look at these guys. We have gotten a look at these guys, our initial look. And defense. Jeff Brom was asked afterward about that defense. He was generally pleased, guys. I think he likes his first unit. To know guys he thinks is his second and third unit need a little help, but it's going to be an aggressive front, fellas. And one thing was confirmed from a personnel standpoint tonight. The roster came out this afternoon. There was no Anthony Watts on the roster. We all knew he had sustained a foot injury this summer, wasn't going to be available to start the year. Again, not on the roster, and Coach Brom confirmed Anthony has graduated and moved on. So, it's a loss. He was a super senior who was expected to compete for a starting defensive tackle job. I still think Purdue should be okay at tackle. Tonight, they had Lawrence Johnson, the junior from Fort Wayne, and redshirt freshman Indiana transfer DeMarge Lewis running with the first team. Bryce Austin and Branson Dean were your second team tackles. So that was probably the most noteworthy personnel, development of day one. And again, defense, special teams, quarterback competition, offensive line. We can talk about a million things right now, guys. So it's just fun to dig in here and discuss some Boilermaker football.
Yeah, Brian, we were sitting up there watching, and it's a little bit of pitching and catching because you're watching the quarterbacks and they do a lot of passing drills, but a couple of receivers caught your eye among other things. But what say you in terms of what you saw from number 3? There's no issue with him at all, but some other guys out there, Mershawn Rice, and I'm not going to steal all the names that you might name, but what others jumped out at you at all?
Yeah, 3 is obviously really good. He has to stay healthy. I mean, they're obviously going to need him at his best and then some, and to operate at the highest volume of his career by a mile. But, I think wide receiver is clearly the position Purdue's had no trouble recruiting at and assembling quite a bit of talent. I'd probably only put them behind Ohio State in the Big Ten in terms of their ability to collect talent at wide receiver. Obviously, Penn State and Michigan and them are always going to have talent at that position, but I think Purdue's done a really good job stockpiling players at that position, and now is going to kind of be the time for some of those guys to have to step in. I think that obviously David Bell is potential All-American. I think Milton Wright can be really good. I thought he was really good last year. I think he can be even better this year. just kind of with the natural progression of time. But I think a few of those young guys who've redshirted or just come in and not really had a chance to do anything yet. I thought Mershawn Rice did a couple of really good things today. Obviously, just kind of running around in shells and not really doing anything terribly complex. I thought Abdur Rahman Yassin made at least one good play that I took note of mentally. Who am I forgetting here?
Brock Thompson.
Yeah, Brock, the Marshall transfer.
I can't necessarily tell you that I saw Brock Thompson do anything out of the ordinary, but I know people are really high on him. His name kept coming up at Big Ten Media Day. I
think you like the freshman from Brownsburg, Brian.
Yes, both of the true freshmen both did positive things. I thought Preston Terrell did some really nice things. I was surprised he was getting as many balls thrown his way in team stuff that he was. I thought Deion Burks made a nice play or two as well. And, again, they've had no problem putting players on top of players on top of players at that position. So they should be fine there. It's around the rest of the offense where I think there's going to be some questions. And I sort of wonder if there's going to come games where your best option here is to drop back 60 times and just kind of chuck it around,
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting storyline because, yes, King Daru and Xander Horvath, it's pretty clear they need to stay healthy. And I thought that, again, they're running around in shells, but there are guys that, Milton Wright passes the eyeball test. He looks like, I don't know if he necessarily looks any different than he did, but I would agree with you. He's got a lot of potential if they can get him going. Tom, we always also look at the quarterbacks, and that's going to be the question every time. And you're going to be able to be in practice for another week. So you'll have to get as much as you can get from that standpoint of actually watching guys. Aiden O'Connell, and Jack Plummer kind of looked like they were rotating with the ones. Austin Burton was out there and as well, and you had a chance to watch Mike Alamo too. What were your impressions of what you saw from those guys today?
Yeah, no great revelations there. I thought both Plummer and O'Connell looked good, and yeah, Austin Burton's a guy not to discount or not to totally forget about. Coach Brahm talked about him tonight after practice as well. I know he's probably maybe the third wheel here in what's essentially probably a two-man quarterback race, but I wouldn't want to totally write him off. So just stay tuned with him and keep him on your radar. But again, it probably is going to boil down to O'Connell and Plummer. Jeff Brahm knows both those guys can win ball games for him. They each have their strengths. I think we all know O'Connell is a guy who's generally considered to throw the better spiral, the prettier pass, the more catchable ball, not the greatest athlete. And, of course, Plummer can still throw it well, but, he's generally considered to be the more athletic and more nimble of the duo. So it's going to be a close race. Coach Brahm said before media days that they probably would name an internal starter maybe a week or so before the season opener on September 4th. And give that guy a good run up to the opener. And, in the end, fellas, I wouldn't be shocked that maybe both guys play early on. We'll see if the separation isn't that great. But again, Coke, Pepsi, McDonald's, Burger King, Plummer, O'Connell, they both are good. And again, you can obviously win with both of them too.
And that's going to be a storyline that's they're going to have to play at a high level in any program in high Division I football is going to, quarterback's got to be excellent from that standpoint. All right, but Brian, another guy that both you guys know, and we all know to some extent, it was kind of fun to watch Mark Hagan hollering and coaching like he looked like he did 11 years ago or whatever. He was last in West Lafayette. But this is a defensive staff that they're trying to bring intensity there. We've got a lot of images. Chad Crock, I've looked through Chad's images and a lot of images of Coach Lambert as well. And that, Greg Lambert is a guy too that brought some personality to the table. But just to comments, Brian, I've seen Mark Hagan out there again and watching this staff. We're going to watch its defensive staff and see how they can gel. That's going to be a big storyline of what they can bring to the table for this defense.
Yeah, I don't think Mark Hagan has aged a day. I don't know how he's done it, but I think he actually got younger since he was here before. But yeah, obviously that defensive staff has a lot of burden on it right now because last year's was a disaster, all things considered. And I think this group A has to turn around the defense, but also fit in really well. I think they have some assets on that side of the ball that they have to put in better positions to succeed than they might have been last year. But also, I think things just need to be more harmonious behind the scenes. And I think that it didn't take anyone actually coming out and articulating it publicly, but clearly there were some, staff chemistry issues starting the day that, Bob Biacco came on board. Obviously, COVID-19 was a bit of a curveball in terms of staff continuity and staff chemistry and all of that stuff. And I don't know what role that played into it. But last year, Purdue hired a big personality, a guy who has left a trail behind him of people who weren't all that big of a fan and got burned. And I think that, from everything I've heard and not necessarily observed yet, but heard about Brad Lambert, he is a guy who will fit in that sort of personality type. And I think obviously Jeff Brom says he wants to be more involved or will be more involved with the defense. So there's going to have to be a really, really functional collaborative effort going on here. And I think that's going to be one of the really important fundamental starting points to this season for Purdue, is just making sure everybody's on the same page. Because if it's a fractured environment like it seemed to be last year in more ways than one, I don't think, I don't know if Purdue has a chance. I think staff harmony first and foremost, and staff productivity. These guys obviously have to do a good job. I think are obviously paramount to whatever success Purdue wants to experience this year.
Yeah, Ron English also in the defensive backfield, very active, giving a lot of feedback, certainly to his DBs, and that I think was also very evident in that one practice. Okay, Tom, the knucklehead in me likes to what my eyes went searching for number 14 right away, and that's Yanni Karlaftis, only because. Well, for a couple of reasons. One, he obviously didn't play very much last year at Westside High School. I think played in one game, did not play in spring ball. Hard to tell what you saw, but you saw a guy that was around the football on several situations. And I'm sure that he was happy to be back out there and running around. But he's one of the guys, of the young guys, that your eyes go right to.
Yeah, number 14, you're right. I know the staff likes him a lot. He plays with an edge, he plays with a nastiness about him, a lot like his older brother, George. And so I think anytime you have that mindset, and you couple that, guys, with that nasty disposition with a style where he plays all out all the time, too, like George. I mean, then you got a special football player. So Yanni's going to play this year. He may not start. He could work his way into the starting lineup, but again, he's going to play. He's going to have a role, at least as a backup linebacker on the strong side, maybe a little bit on special teams too. And again, probably Brian could talk about this. One of Purdue's biggest linebacking recruits in years. A nice get there. That's a linebacking core that needs some star power, fellas. Derek Barnes is gone. They had guys like Jawan Bentley and Marcus Bailey in recent years, and even TJ McCollum. Does this linebacking unit have a star? Does it have a difference maker? I think that's one of the bigger keys hanging over this defense. Is it Jalen Alexander? Is it Jalen Graham? Is it the Auburn transfer, O.C. Brothers? Who knows? But again, this defense probably is going to need a linebacker who's a cut above, who's a playmaker if it wants to reach a lot of its goals. So again, it's fun to talk about these newcomers, guys. 6 transfers on this defense. So you have 4 new coaches, and you've got 6 transfers, 3 on the defensive line. Talked about DeMar J. Lewis. Prince Boyd, the JC kid, looked better than I thought he was going to look. Joe Anderson, the end from South Carolina. 2 guys in the back end. Jamari Brown, the Kentucky cornerback, and Chris Jefferson, of course, the free safety from Findlay University, who I think is going to be a sleeper. So, boy, a lot of new moving parts on that defense, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see how it develops.
Yeah, I thought Brian, when you and I are carrying on a conversation, but kind of looking up and watching, also George Karlaftis looked like he was very active. We expect that. I mean, but he was making a lot of, they weren't tackling it at full board, but he looked good, at least from a physical standpoint. No issues from what went on last year. Obviously, he's a guy that could make Purdue's defense really dangerous if he can play at an All-American level, which a lot of people think he can.
Yeah, he's going to look really good in games this year, but he's going to look really good in practice because he
true.
goes, he seems to go really hard all the time. And, I think some of the guys who are going to be across the line of scrimmage from him in practice, they're in a little bit of transition there. They're going to have to, find some tackles who can hang with him and players like him because they're going to see a lot of them in the Big Ten. But no, yeah, he's your foundation defensively. I think he's your pass rush. He's your face of a defense that wants to be more pressure oriented. I think that one of the important things for this defense is to be able to rush the passer to make your cornerbacks better, because your cornerbacks are a huge question mark for this defense. I think I always kind of view pass rushers and cornerbacks as linked together. I think that your cornerbacks make your pass rushers better, your pass rushers make your cornerbacks better. And I think any help Purdue can give its corners with its pass rush, whether that's is Karlaftis just doing what Karlaftis does, or Purdue throwing the kitchen sink at people, I think is going to be really, really critically important to this defense. Because if you can't put any pressure on the opposing offense, which Purdue has experienced that very sort of situation many times over the years, if you can't get the pressure you need, you're a sitting duck. And Purdue kind of learned that last year when, from a schematic perspective, it seemed to be perfectly okay being a sitting duck.
Going to be that is obviously going to be a key to this season, not only whether Purdue gets out of the gate the way it has to, I think, to win the number of games that it's going to get it to the postseason. It got to start fast and got to be at some level competitive defensively from the get-go. They're going to get tested against Oregon State, certainly a team that can score. All right, Tom, the practice load, obviously Saturday's practice, Saturday afternoon, which and then you'll see workouts on Monday. We've got to access Monday, Tuesday. I'm sure I have it all. I know it's on the site. I know you have the roster on the site, but just talk about what you hope to see here in this next week, just as you watch and again, be able to at least evaluate a little bit about what is transpiring on that practice field.
Yeah, again, always watching this defense, from front to back, all three levels of it. How is it developing? We just talked about the newcomers and in the new scheme, the new aggressive approach. Offensive line.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that yet.
Sam Garvin has a back issue that may be threatening his season here. He was going to be the number 2 center this year. Of course, he was the number 1 center last year. Gus Hartwig, the true sophomore, has moved over. He's the snapper now. And redshirt freshman Jared Bazinski is the number 2 center. He was the guy snapping with that unit tonight. And, they feel good about Greg Long, the super senior, who, of course, transferred in from UTEP last year. He was the left tackle tonight, guys. The right tackle was the junior, Eric Miller, from Mason, Ohio, a big kid, 6'7", about 315 or so. Don't count out Cam Craig. Jeff Brom talked about that after practice tonight. Cam Craig's the guy they like. Cam Craig was the number 2 right tackle tonight. Cam Craig could also play some guard. He's a player, again, that they would like to get in the lineup somewhere. Your guards were who we thought they were going to be on the number 1 unit on the left side, Spencer Holstedge. And of course, the transfer from Western Kentucky, Tyler Witt. So, the line, we all know, guys, it's got to get better in those short yardage situations, 3rd and 1, 4th and inches in the red zone. They have to be able to run the football when everybody in the stadium knows they're going to try to run the football for 1 tough yard. Time and again, that's been an issue in recent years for Purdue. They've got 2 line coaches now as well devoted to that unit. So I'll be watching that line. Of course, then special teams. Coach Brom talked about that tonight. Jack Ansel, Brendan Cropsey, battling a punter, kicker, Mitchell Finron, the Samford transfer, the Oklahoma State transfer, Ben Freehill looked pretty good tonight. And of course, the redshirt freshman, Edward Dellinger. So we all know, guys, we saw it with our own eyes last year, the issues, especially in the punting game, that has to get better. So there's plenty to watch here the next week or so, Alan.
Yeah. I'm going to quick follow up with you. Any other, we had some guys on the sidelines. I know you're going to be talked about that in your report, but no injuries of notes, a couple cramps during practice that I saw, but I didn't see anybody go down. There wasn't anything from that standpoint that you're aware of.
No, there were guys that weren't supposed to practice, so there was no shock there. Some guys working off to the side. Marcus Bowe, a big, good-looking freshman offensive tackle from Wisconsin. Antonio Stevens, the safety from Tennessee, who had that gruesome knee injury against Nebraska last year, had 2 surgeries. He's going to be a while to get back on the field still. Dante Hunter had an Achilles injury in the spring. We all knew about that. He's not going to be available to start the year either. So, again, no real surprises there. And I didn't see anything happen tonight. Again, like you said, maybe this guy's cramping or tweaking something, but nothing of note. And, we're always crossing our fingers. I'm sure fans are too. It seems like every year, every team gets some type of injuries and in training camp. I mean, the Marcus Bailey thing a couple years ago was a non-contact issue. I know these coaches keep their fingers crossed too. Sometimes the most innocuous drill, even in shorts and helmet, can result in a catastrophic injury. So it's just the nature of the sport.
Yeah, I think that will be depth is going to be a constant conversation for Purdue. Purdue needs to keep its roster as healthy as possible. All right, Brian, you also this past week kind of caught up in recruiting and on the basketball side. What are you looking ahead to this week as you obviously you have football you're going to be monitoring as well, but anything else on your docket from a recruiting or news and notes that warrant discussion in our Saturday simulcast?
I was going to say I didn't do anything this week. I just kind of sat here at my computer and stared off into the monitor. No, just obviously starting to get ready for some basketball visits to be coming in September. I think this is a real slow period for both football and basketball recruiting because there's not going to be a lot of visits in August between the summer visits and the fall visits. I did a bunch of interviews and went to a couple basketball practices in June, I guess it was, or sometime in July. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's all run together the last year and a half. I've got a bunch of stories I still need to write. I've got a bunch of basketball stuff I need to write. So hopefully I can balance out our site a little bit with some basketball stuff while Tom pushes the boulder of football training camp up the mountain.
Yeah, it's going to be it's getting to be that time of year, and you're right. This is kind of the quiet time for basketball. Maybe about the only time they can kind of get away before they get to going full bore with everything as you get looking ahead to the season. All right, Tom, I was going to ask this question. So, what's your moment of the week, or any other experience that you had that again, it's starting to get, obviously now you're here and you're covering camp, but what were the thing that you remember or recall from this week that maybe was a little bit different or off the wall?
Just sitting next to you guys in Ross-Ade State.
There you go. That's an easy answer. There you go. That's bliss.
My real dream is to be sitting between you guys on a stool at Triple X one day.
Yeah, we might get that done too.
Even a Dwayne Purvis All-American with some fried mushrooms.
Yeah, I think that I'll echo that in my just to have that back and watching it again, kind of fun to watch it. It's just interesting to just walk into the stadium and see these. I don't know how many bodies are out there. There's 100 out there. And there's 85 scholarships, right? But all kind of going through the motions. The trains seem to run on time today. You expect that. I know they had a little walkthrough before they got to Ross-Ade Stadium. Don't know how the movie turned out. The Titans won, maybe. I don't know. Did they win?
But the scoreboard, guys, the scoreboard is.
Oh yeah, it's different with people in the stands. That's going to be sure because we saw it last year. Tom and I did.
Brian,
that's no moon.
Brian and I were talking to Mike Bobinski before everything kicked off. He told us they actually almost got talked into buying an even bigger scoreboard.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I don't know how much wider it could go, but it's pretty impressive, and it's impressive at any time of day. So, Brian, any other last any thoughts for the week? Great moments of clarity that you want to share with our audience as we put a wrap on this show?
Not really. I'm still riding high because in the last 24 hours of summer, I always consider the summer to end when football training camp starts. I got my internet fixed after 6 months of hell.
Yeah.
I fixed the problem. Xfinity did not. I fixed it with Xfinity's reluctant assistance. I got a new driver's license and I got new tires on my car. All things that I needed to do all summer long. I got them done in the last 24 hours. So I settled all the family business here in the last 24 hours or so. So I'm pretty excited to have been a functional, productive human for once the last few days. Now it's time to work again.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I will say this: my thought of the week is thanks to a lot of our readers and folks. We're involved with the Gold and Black team. Will be in the Casa race tomorrow and or Saturday and Sunday, and all those that have sponsored that. It's good to be back in that realm again too, trying to help the Lafayette area community. That's a big plus for all of you that contributed to that as well. So, guys, have a great
making the world a better place while I sit here patting myself on the back for getting a new driver's license.
And the only reason
once again, you make me look like a complete jackass. Thank you.
The only reason why I can do that is because you guys do such a great job. I can go out and screw around, but that's right around the track. Guys, have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll look forward to the football coverage and then basketball coming up. And want to thank our sponsor, the Purdue Union Club Hotel. We're grateful for them as well, and all the folks that, like I said, Vicky Wicks and the group there that really have been supportive of us here in their second year of running it, and they're looking forward to football season as well. So have a great week. You can always also become a member of GoldandBlack.com. Go to our site and click on just about any story. We have a link at the top where you can do that as well. So have a great week, all. Thanks for watching and listening. And we'll look forward to our Saturday simulcast. Will be into the last, probably after the last practice that we'll be able to see in person. Tom and Brian will be talking about that next week. So have a good one, all. Thanks so much.